Good morning, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today, Connor and I are out here rolling up some old paddock divisions. Connor, you want to talk a little bit about what we did on this particular pasture? You know, we're looking at now it's 25 acres. What did we have here?
So we had 4 paddocks. It was right down this row. You can see the bird houses, and that was where this line was. So it came up from the boundary fence and went all the way down there, and then cut down to the fence down there. And then we had one coming across the middle, going from that fence all the way across in the middle there. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4 paddocks. So we were talking about it, and it's nice sometimes because you can just put them in there and it's your paddock. But sometimes
it's nice sometimes to have a permanent paddock.
Right. Yeah. But this also gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of setting up different size paddocks, because at different points in the year we want to give them larger or smaller areas. And it's not that far from the perimeter here on the road all the way down to the fence down at the bottom. We do that kind of stretch all the time
with poly braid,
temporary poly braid.
Yep.
And so we decided to just go ahead and take it out, and then we can split it how we want, depending on what time of year it is and depending on how we want to do it. So we just rolled it all up.
Yeah. You know, in my defense, why that was in there, this is our lifetime lease farm, and I was working 40 hours a week in town. I was trying to move 3 herds a day, and morning and night, and time was precious. And so I set this up where I could just come out and open a gate and let them go, so I didn't even have to put up a poly wire fence. And for those of you all that are limited in labor resources, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, we did it for years. This is 2021, and I did that. I put these in 1999. So it worked. It worked for 22 years, almost a quarter of a century. But you and Isaac were kind of questioning me about this particular one right here. This is the one you all took up first. There was a gate right there, and there was a gate down there by that bare spot. That's where our hydrant is. And anytime you do put in a gate, you're gonna have a bare spot, pretty much. That's just what happens, because you get so much traffic around that gate. So you all rolled this one up, and then I'm looking at the last 2 you all left in, from there over to there, and from there over to that woods line. I'm like, Y'all got my old brain itching, so I said, let's just take it all up.
Yeah.
And you all were very energetic and behind it. You thought it was a good idea too. So
yeah, it makes sense when we we have the time and we have the manpower to do it. It makes sense to have the permanent paddocks when you don't, but with how the operation is now, we have plenty of manpower and supplies and stuff to do it.
So let's go over that a little bit on the moving of the animals through this paddock. What did that do for us by removing all this permanent infrastructure as far as flexibility, Connor?
So we'll be able to split it in different ways, which means we can get different kind of grays on it, and so we can make them long and make them walk up and down.
What's the advantage of making a long rectangular paddock?
It makes they walk more, and so they trample more, and so they put more sod into the ground, and so we put more carbon on the ground.
Yes.
So they because they're walking a lot more.
So it's a great way to heal the land.
Mm-hmm. If you want like more grays, then you won't make it as long and rectangular.
More square.
More square.
Yeah.
But
so did y'all hear that? The longer rectangular paddocks, you get more trampled on the ground. The more square the paddock, you get more put into the cow's belly.
Mm-hmm. So really depends on what time of year it is and what you got on in your pastures.
Yep.
When you're trying to set that up, but that gives us the flexibility to do that here.
Right.
And then also under the fence rows, you had brush growing up and trees growing up and thorns and briars and all that stuff. So
yep.
Now the cows will be able to get in there. You'll also be able to brush hog it if you want to, and keep that brush down. So it just gives more opportunity to let the cows in.
Yep. And this farm, I leased it in 1999, and you could still see the fence row in the summertime when everything's growing real well. There'd be a little stream of broom sedge under that wire going both directions. Broom sedge, that's what this whole field was when I leased it. So in 1999, I got this whole farm, this whole pasture leased. It looked like a wheat field, Connor. It really did. I got a picture of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a wheat field. It was that brown and stemmy looking. And the animals just wouldn't eat it. But today, it doesn't look like that at all.
No.
There's another thing I wanted to cover on this. And, Connor, we actually, on that other field, there was a lot of the Cerisea lespedeza.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went in and I mowed the other farm over there off, it got later and I didn't do this one. You can see some Cerisea down there in the bottom.
Yeah.
But where we mowed it off, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it got hammered, didn't it?
It did. And so, like, you mowed it, and then we've grazed it since then, and the Cerisea was starting to come back, but it was vegetative, so they ate it.
Nailed it.
And so, I mean, I was talking to Isaac the other day. It seems like that might be a pretty good way to manage
Cerisea. Yeah.
Mowing it and make sure it's vegetative when you come back around so that they'll eat it.
Well, there's a few plants in this paddock now, and I can see when people don't know what we're talking about. Well, right here's one. Okay, so you want to pull that out if you can. It's like pulling a tree. That's not like pulling. There you go. I'm glad you pulled that. So this is what we're talking about, folks. That got woody, and so the animals wouldn't eat that. But see, I came in into July. You can't clip it too soon because it's too early and it hasn't made its full growth. But when you get about right there, now take your hands and bend that off right there. Yeah. So all that was clipped off with a brush hog, and then this, what he's holding down here, came back. It looked like alfalfa.
Yeah.
It was that vegetative.
Yeah, it looked good.
And so we don't have any seed. There was no seed produced on this plant. Where we didn't clip, there's seed produced. And so I really feel like if you want to at least control it, maybe keep it from taking your farm over, you can brush hog it. And then, but you got to brush hog it about the end of July. You could go maybe the middle of July. And then give it about 30 days rest and then bring the cows in on it. Man, they just tore it up.
Yeah.
That bottom field though, you can see way in the distance, folks, the cows, they're down in that bottom. I'll bring you in where you can see them. There you can see them. Well, the field right above that bottom, that was about 80% Cerisea.
Yeah, it was infested.
And now, when I brush hogged it off, not only did it come back vegetative, all the fescue came back too, because we opened up the canopy. So yeah, it's just another management practice that we're using. Everybody says you got to spray it with 2,4-D, round. You got to put some kind of broadleaf spray on it. It is a broadleaf. It's not grass. And I just refuse to do that. I'm not. When you spray something, folks, you start trying to kill everything on your farm. Next thing you know, you're out of business. And you've killed all the biology in your farm and the diversity. So we like to just grab a piece of chemical or a big machine or something and just fix everything. And sometimes you can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, you can. You think you fix it, but you didn't. You just threw a bunch of money at it.
Yeah. Cause a different problem.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So with that, I like what we're seeing here. The cattle are coming this way. We had a hard frost this morning, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, it looked like midwinter.
And where's Isaac at this morning, Connor?
Oh, he went out bow hunting. So he said he saw the biggest buck he's ever seen last night in the woods. He just didn't come close enough for him to get
And that's including Michigan bucks.
Yeah.
And folks, Michigan, Michigan has some huge corn-fed bucks. But he said this is the biggest buck he ever saw, and he was so giddy, I didn't know if he was going to be able to sleep last night. And so I told him, I said, Isaac, when you go on the stand this morning, just stay there. He's in what we call the honey hole. It's just unbelievable. I did a video there last year of me when I was rifle hunting, I believe. And it's one of those stands you can just set in all day long. You're right down the middle. And he had an 8-point buck behind him, but then he had this monster come out following a doe. And he said it was just unbelievably huge. So, yeah, and our landowner, Steve, he went out last night.
Yeah.
First time ever he went bow hunting. It was this crossbow. And he got a beautiful 8-point buck that came right behind his house on our pasture. And Steve is just, I mean, it was a nice one, trophy. So congratulations, Steve, on that. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. And Connor, I've got a little bit more to do this morning. And we'll see y'all next time.